Very good. Thank you for being here. We got some very positive feedback from having interpreters here previously. So, Sean, I want you to come a little closer to me. There you go. All right. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for being here. Especially, I want to thank Administrator Fugate coming down from FEMA to join the team out of Denton, Texas. That's been embedded with us for several days and providing a lot of good work on behalf of FEMA and been very beneficial to the folks here in Louisiana. As you all know, this has been a major storm event with a statewide declaration that happened last week. As of right now, we have 23 individual parishes that are part of a major federal declaration as well. And we are continuing to monitor about 11 additional parishes to see whether we will ask that they be included in an expanded declaration as well. But I just wanted to take a minute and visit with you all this morning to allow the administrator from Washington to share some of his thoughts with you all, because he sees these events all over the country. And while he's here, I just want to thank him for the partnership that we've been able to establish with the folks at FEMA. And now that partnership obviously extends from the state down to the local level as well, with tremendous work being done in the parishes that are affected with fire departments, police juries, the parish presidents, and the sheriff's offices, just everybody who's been responding, because this is a record-breaking flood event with flood water all over the state of Louisiana in places where it's never been before. At least nobody living can remember floodwaters being in some of the places where they've actually damaged homes, rendered roads impassable. And as we gather today, even though we've had much better weather for several days now, we still have I-10 closed in going into Texas. In fact, it's closed on the Texas side. So we still have tremendous issues with floodwater, and do not anticipate that any of the rain that you're seeing today is going to materially affect that or make that worse. But I did want to welcome Administrator Fugate here, and I want to ask him to come forward and offer some comments. And then after that, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser is going to come up and offer some comments. And I want to publicly thank him for his hard work. He's almost like FEMA, has been embedded with the folks here and going around traveling and offering his, I don't want to say expertise, but his experience being a parish president in Plaquemines Parish that went through a number of disaster declarations while he was there. He's been able to render assistance, and I want to thank him for that. And of course, that's something he's going to continue to do as we move forward. So he'll come up after Administrator Fugate, and then after that, if you all have a few questions, we'll take those as well. Administrator?
Thank you, Governor. Well, on behalf of President Obama, the federal team is in support of the governor. And I think as you can see from this response is being led by the governor and his team, parish presidents and their teams, all the way down to the local volunteers and neighbors helping neighbors. Our job is to support the governor, and his request was acted on by the president, and we will continue to provide assistance as the governor requests. But right now, the important steps we can ask people to take are to register with FEMA. We're not going to know what your needs are until you do register. That registration is merely pick up the phone and call us at 1-800-621-FEMA or go to disasterassistance.gov and start the process. Those of you that have flood insurance, call your adjusters. We are getting flood insurance claims paid. Right now we have about $2.5 million that's already been paid in flood insurance, and more will be forthcoming as soon as we can get to some of the homes. We know some people's homes still underwater. But we don't go anywhere till this is over. We know there are some parishes water has not come down, and we may see some other areas that are still at risk. So we'll be here as long as it takes. Been to a lot of disasters in the great state of Louisiana, unfortunately, but it's a good team the governor has. We're here to support, and our job on behalf of the president is to coordinate that federal response. But we are asking people to take that one step. If you have been impacted by this flood, please register with us so we can start the process to see what help you may be eligible for. Thank you.
I want to thank you too, Mr. Fugate. We worked very closely during the 5 hurricanes that I went through in Plaquemines Parish, and his team on the ground did an excellent job at helping our people recover and our parish recover. So I feel very confident in the team he has here and working with the governor's team. And as we go through this process, there's going to be some people that aren't going to get don't have flood insurance. And Volunteer Louisiana, we're going to be working closely with those folks to get volunteers in there to help them rebuild. One thing we have in Louisiana is a great bunch of people, neighbors helping neighbors. And we've got volunteers already contacting us from outside Louisiana wanting to come in and help. So although you may not be made whole through some type of grant, we're going to be there to assist and work closely with the governor's team to make sure we help our neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, with that, if there's a few questions, we'll take them.
Governor, can you tell us, in our area, we've got Ascension, Livingston, and Tangipahoa who are included, right?
Ascension, Livingston, and Tangipahoa, correct. Well, and you've also got St. Tammany and Washington. So when you say in our area, I'm not, you know, okay. But they are included, and we still have about 11 additional parishes that we're looking at to see whether the threshold has been met. And of course, that we won't know that entirely until we can go in and do some damage assessment.
Can you tell us those 11 parishes, are some of them from the New Orleans or Baton Rouge areas?
Oh yeah, for example, Jefferson Parish, they passed a I think it was a council resolution last night asking to be included based upon some damage that they've sustained down along the coast. And so we're looking at that as well.
What's the total number right now of the parishes that were
26. We had 3 that were included last night based upon a recommendation that I made yesterday, and those were Allen, Ascension, and Calcasieu parishes.
Do you have any estimate on the turnaround time right now between making a claim and actually getting the assistance?
Well, I don't have any estimate on that. What I can tell you with respect to asking for the expanded declarations, everything that we've asked for has been granted within hours, and so we're very appreciative of that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you or Administrator Fugate put a finer point on what federal assistance programs are available for people, particularly those who lived in these areas where they've never had flooding before, didn't have to have flood insurance? So what's available for them once they register with FEMA? What are some of the programs they could take advantage of?
Sure. I'll ask the administrator to respond to that.
Well, the first thing up would be Small Business Administration disaster loans, both for businesses and for homeowners. That would be the first thing we would look at, whether they would qualify for that, and that would be the largest amount of dollars they could get to start rebuilding, but it is a loan. We do look at an income means test, so if you cannot afford a loan, that's where a FEMA grant may become eligible. So if you're a homeowner or a renter and you need assistance, particularly if you need to get some renter's assistance or someplace to live, or you've had losses, you didn't have insurance, if you didn't qualify for a Small Business Administration disaster loan, then we would look at our grant, and we can make grants up to about $32,000. But the average amount is between $5,000 and $7,000. So it's not an automatic, you apply, you didn't get an SBA, you're going to get a sum amount. It's always based upon the impacts and needs. But this is what the Lieutenant Governor is talking about. We know that people didn't have flood insurance because they were not in flood zones. They don't have any coverage. We know that our grants won't necessarily make them whole, and if they didn't get an SBA loan, they're going to have trouble getting back in their homes. And so that's part of what we want to do is partner with the volunteer organizations to help people get back to their homes and make those repairs.
But those grants are available for
They're-
people who did not have flood insurance?
Yes, it's not tied, it is basically in the absence of insurance. You would go to Small Business Administration, you would go to FEMA, and when you call FEMA, you are starting that process with both the SBA and with FEMA, so we do that together.
Is this why you recommend that anybody who has a home or business
Yes.
building, even if you're not in these flood zones,
Yes,
to pay the nominal fee that it costs for
Yes.
insurance?
one of the challenges we've run into is because the average homeowner's policy excludes any flooding, period, whether you're in a flood zone or not. The only requirements for people to buy flood insurance are tied to mortgages if you're in a special risk, the high risk areas. And unfortunately, too many people think, well, if I'm not in a high-risk area, then I'm not at risk from flooding. And what they don't understand is they just put one of the most valuable pieces of their equity at risk without carrying flood insurance, which if you're not in a special risk area, literally costs hundreds of dollars, $300 to $400 a year for the maximum coverage. But without that, the average homeowner policy is no coverage for flood damage. So without that flood insurance policy, even if you're not in the special risk area, and that's why we continue to implore people, don't look at if you're in the special risk area. Look at, can you afford not to have flood insurance, because too many areas that are flooding, as the governor said, people have lived there all their lives. It's never flooded. Well, this week it's flooded, and they may have lost everything.
You said $2.5 million already paid in flood insurance claims for this
Right.
event, just Louisiana, or
Just Louisiana.
Just Louisiana. What's the overall number? There was flooding in other states.
I'd have to get those broken out for by state.
So that's a good point. It's not just that you should have flood insurance so that there is some coverage available to you. Through the flood insurance program and the work that the adjusters do and the contractual obligations they have, the money gets to you much faster than having to go through the process asking for individual assistance. And so flood insurance is obviously recommended for folks to avoid the kind of hardships that folks are facing in Louisiana today. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a sense of like what percentage of people affected didn't have flood insurance?
No, I can't tell you right now. I will tell you just anecdotally. When I traveled the state, I spoke to, I don't know, over the last week, maybe a couple of hundred homeowners, very few of whom had flood insurance. But now that is anecdotal, and I don't know that that would hold up to any kind of scrutiny once we get all the final numbers. For example, I was in Maryville on Sunday, and speaking to one couple, I think they were 86 years old. They had lived in their home for 50 years and never had water approach their home before, but their home was probably totally destroyed in this particular incident. Yes, sir.
There was some reporting earlier in the week that had the cuts to the National Guard gone through the way that it left the state legislature, it would have been a lot tougher to deploy the National Guard.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how cuts down the road could affect response times?
Well, I mean, it's obviously true that when you call up National Guardsmen and you put them on active duty when they weren't supposed to be or weren't scheduled to be, then you visit a cost upon the state of Louisiana. If that cost is not in the budget, then you really have no way to do it. And so budgeting is important across all of the services that we provide in the state of Louisiana, but we're here talking about emergency response, and I can tell you that the budget problems we have in Louisiana, both for current year and next year, impact our ability to do all sorts of things, but that especially includes funding for the National Guard when we call them up. We've had to call up over 700 National Guardsmen and place them on active duty at a time when they weren't scheduled to be. There is a cost associated with that. We are very fortunate that looks like we will be able to get 75% of that reimbursed to us, but we still have to come up with that 25%. And right now that's a challenge in Louisiana. But I do want to thank the administrator because they're going to work with us to get the reimbursement on the National Guard on an expedited basis because we already have the documentation of exactly what those expenses are. And that's important for us right now, especially in Louisiana. Look, I want to thank all of you for being here and for your questions, and hopefully I won't be seeing you too many more times around this particular event, but certainly we will if it becomes necessary. Thank you.